It wasn't until an older woman in her 40s, attending college much later than those kids, said to the teacher, she just raised her hands and she said, they just aren't old enough yet to understand Raymond Carver. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Read the Right Thing Book Reviews. Thanks for watching. Today I'm reviewing a very special collection of short stories, What We Talk About When We Talk About Love by Raymond Carver. Raymond Carver was born in Clatskanie, Oregon. He lived in Washington until his death in 1988. He lived in various parts of the Northeast. I believe he spent a lot of time near Yakima, Washington, and a lot of these stories are set around in the Northeast. There's a very good documentary on YouTube that I recommend you check out. One of my favorite authors, Richard Ford, was a good friend of Raymond Carver's, and he appears frequently in that documentary. So check it out if you're interested. I haven't spent too much time in the Northeast. The only time I went up there was to go to a concert at the Gorge Amphitheater. And it's this beautiful space. I would say it's the second best place to see a concert besides Red Rocks in Colorado. This part of America is very beautiful, but this place also has a vibe of loneliness and desperation. There's something off about the Northwest. It's very cloudy, not a lot of sunshine. A lot of lonely characters flock to these places. So why did I choose to read this book? Why review it now? In the last 15 years or so, this is the third time I've read through this book. I can't remember how I originally discovered Raymond Carver. I wish I could remember. It may have been recommended by a teacher or a friend, or I read about it somewhere. But the first time I read it, I was young. Maybe still in high school or just fresh out of high school. The second time I read it was after seeing that movie Birdman with Michael Keaton. In that movie, he puts on a play of the short stories of this book. So after having seen that movie, I decided to read it again. And recently, I read a book of short stories called Livability by John Raymond. And this book is a collection of short stories also set in the Northwest. It has similar themes and tones to Raymond Carver. So after reading that book, I wanted to revisit this book as well. Raymond Carver is famous for having this cold and dark, minimal writing style. Very chilling to read, but also entertaining. It's a minimalist style with maximum impact. His writing style creates sadness, tension, and emotional depth in so few words. Some stories are only a few pages, and they lack quotation marks when the characters are speaking. With this minimalist style, you bring a lot of yourself to these stories. You fill in the gaps with your beliefs and your past experiences. It's involved reading without being too taxing. Reading the characters in this collection of books is pretty devastating and heartbreaking. It's all about the dysfunctional people in society, the mentally ill, the downtrodden, the people with no hope left. They are a lot like the characters you encounter in a Johnny Cash or Bruce Springsteen song. Just based off the title alone, you can tell that this book is all about love and relationships. Many of the characters are destroyed by past relationships, life, and the alcoholic drink. The characters, they all define and experience love differently. Love languages have grown in popularity. Physical touch, acts of confirmation, spending quality time, gifts, all of these love language pretty popular these days. These are all good things. These are all good things that love can bring to someone. But Carver shows the downside to love, the pain, the heartbreak, what it drives some people to do, to be emotionally abusive, to be physically abusive, or to even kill. What happens when love hurts? Or is that even real love? Can love hurt? The title story shows two couples drinking gin and discussing this topic of love, all taking place in a kitchen with fading light. Is love something that can last? Is it fleeting? Is it painful? Or is it something else? Why is it that you can go from loving someone so deeply to hating them so much so quickly? It happens all the time too. I've seen it. I've seen it with my family members, and it's always interesting to see. Did they even love these people in the first place? Maybe they just love the idea of being in love. Alcohol also plays a major role in this book. Carver himself was a very heavy drinker and he had to go to AA meetings. The characters are heavy drinkers too. Alcohol serves as this social lubricant, but it can also be a destructive force. It's hard to love someone with an addiction, and it's hard to show up for someone when you have your own addiction. A lot of these characters aren't in productive relationships and probably never will be. And I think the alcohol does not help this. but yet these characters, their lives revolve around alcohol. Sometimes in these stories, they'll say, let me pour a drink before I tell you this, or let's get some drinks before we do this. Some of the popular short stories in this collection are Tell the Women We're Going and the title story. Tell the Women We're Going is a chilling story of two married guys going for a drive. They then try to pick up these two young girls. What's chilling is what Carver doesn't show you. His writing is so sparse, but it explains so much in what he doesn't say. If you read any stories from this collection, read that one and the title story. I had many other favorites. Some were Why Don't You Dance, After the Denim, and A Serious Talk. But I really enjoyed almost every short story. I've already found myself, going back through and reading some of my favorites. And it's good because you can really fly through these stories, but I think it's important to read them, then contemplate what you read, and then read it again. You'll really gain new insight and a new appreciation for what Carver is doing. The first story, Why Don't You Dance, is a good introduction to Carver. It's a little funny, a little sad, a little weird, but it's the type of dirty realism that I just really love. Each time I've read this book, I've completely enjoyed it, but I think this time I enjoyed it the most. In college, I wrote a very bad paper on the title story, and I don't even really remember what I wrote about, but I remember my professor at the time, he was this teacher and he had a hook for a left hand, which is interesting because, it seems like that would be the type of person that Carver would write about. When I mentioned that I wanted to do a paper on this story, he told the entire class, he said, I assigned that book one time to a bunch of students at Brigham Young University. The students read it and they came back to me and they said, why would you recommend this book? This guy sucks. All of the young Mormon students in their early 20s really chastised this professor for assigning such a book. They thought Carver was a bad author and this book was not worth their time. It wasn't until an older woman in her 40s, attending college much later than those kids, said to the teacher, she just raised her hands and she said, they just aren't old enough yet to understand Raymond Carver. So I think he was kind of surprised that I wanted to write this essay. And at the time, I don't think I was ready to understand it either. I was still too young. I think the more life you live, the more heartbreak you see from others, or even that you experience yourselves, the more you're ready and willing to really appreciate what Raymond Carver does. So this book was definitely the right thing for me. I highly recommend it to everyone. Usually I'll say, if you like these types of books, then you should read this book. Well, I think everyone should read this. If you like reading words on a page, then check out What We Talk About When We Talk About Love by Raymond Carver. If you've read this book, let me know what your favorite short story was in the comments. And also hit that like and subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and as always, read the right thing.